Hi guys, hope you're all well. So today we're going to be taking a look at a declassified CIA document. This document is quite frankly mind-blowing. The report is titled Mars Exploration. It's part of a release of millions of documents by the CIA. The documents are a treasure trove of fascinating information, including UFO reports and remote viewer experiments. Document is from 1984 between a CIA agent and a remote viewer whose identity is unknown. The CIA used these remote viewers at one point in time, and they would test their abilities often, asking them random questions about places and times. It was basically a test of ability by the CIA. On this occasion, the agent asked the remote viewer a number of questions who was able to answer in so much detail. The report starts off with a note from the agent stating that the sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. The envelope was not opened until after the interview. In the envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information: the planet Mars, time of interest approximately 1 million years BC. Selected geographical coordinates provided by the parties requesting the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview. So basically, the remote viewer has absolutely no idea what information is contained on the envelope. He has no idea the information related to Mars. All he was given to work with was a set of coordinates. So some of the things the remote viewer comes up with, truly amazing. We'll go over some of the more interesting things from the original transcripts. The agent tells the remote viewer not to think about anything else and focus everything he has on the information that's inside the sealed envelope. The agent then gives the remote viewer a set of coordinates, which are 40.89 degrees north and 9.55 degrees west. The remote viewer focuses and says, and I quote, I want to say, like, I don't know, sort of, kind of, an oblique view of a pyramid or a pyramid form. It's very high and it's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. It's yellowish or ochre coloured. The remote viewer is basically seeing these features. He has absolutely no idea the coordinates given to him and the information inside the envelope relate to the planet Mars. So let's just have a quick check of those coordinates on Google Earth. As you can see, they bring us to the Cydonia region of Mars, which is well known by many to be home to a set of ancient pyramids. Now, these pyramids certainly are not as in good a shape as the ones in Egypt or Mexico. The pyramids of Cydonia are ancient, with millions and millions of years worth of erosion. However, you can clearly still make out that they are pyramids. It's not a natural rock formation. So in terms of the information the CIA is getting back from the remote viewer, it's absolutely spot on, to the point of mind-blowing. Basically, the remote viewer is on Mars looking at a man-made or alien structure. The agent then goes on to ask the remote viewer to describe in detail what he is seeing around him. He says, I'm tracking severe clouds, more like a dust storm, a geologic problem. Seems like an after effect of a major geological problem. The agent then asked the remote viewer to go back to a time before the geologic problem. The remote viewer describes seeing mountains of dirt appear and then disappear when he goes back. He sees large flat surfaces, very smooth, different angles and walls. The really large though, I mean the megalithic, the remote viewer says. The agent pushes the remote viewer for more detail, asks him to go back to a time before these geologic problems, and the remote viewer says, I'm seeing it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall and thin. It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there, and now they're not anymore. The agent asks the remote viewer to go back to a time where those shadows are there and just report the raw data. Don't try to put things together, just report the raw data, the agent says. The remote viewer responds, I just keep seeing very large people, thin and tall, but they're very large, some kind of strange clothes. Next, the CIA agent asked the remote viewer, holding in this time period, I want to move from your physical location in space to another location, but in the same period. Move to 46.45 degrees north, 353.22 east, which the remote viewer responds to being deep inside a cavern. Not a cavern, more like a canyon. I'm looking up the sides of a steep wall that seems to go on forever. There's like a structure. It's like a wall of a canyon itself has been carved. Again, I'm getting a very large structure, huge sections of smooth stone. The agent asks if the structures he's seeing have rooms. The remote viewer responds yes. They're very, it's like a rabbit warren. They're really huge. I feel like I'm standing in one. It's just really huge. Perception is that the ceiling is very high, walls very wide. The remote viewer next is directed to another set of coordinates, 45.86 north, 354.1 east. He describes seeing something that looks like the end of a large road, and there's a marker thing that's very large. Keep getting the Washington Monument overlay, like an obelisk. The agent gives the remote viewer another set of coordinates, 80 degrees south and 64 degrees east, and he instantly sees a pyramid again. Asked if these pyramids have insides, he says yes. Inside and out, they're huge. At this point in the interview, the agent realizes the remote viewer could be losing focus, having a hard time to pinpoint locations, so he asks him to explore and tell him what he sees. The remote viewer goes inside the pyramid and describes seeing chambers, but they're almost like stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. It's like a strictly functional place for sleeping. Oh, that's not a good word. Hibernations, some form. I can't get raw inputs. Storms, savage storms, and sleeping through storms. The agent then goes on to ask the remote viewer who was sleeping through the storms. He says again, very tall, very large people, but they're thin. They look thin because they're height, and they dress like a real light silk, but it's not the flowing type of clothing. It's like cut to fit. The remote viewer describes the tall people as ancient people. They're dying, he says. It's past their time or age. He goes on to say that they're very philosophical about it. They're looking for a way to survive, and they just can't. He says they want to live, but can't seem to get out. They can't seem to find their way out, so they're hanging on while they look or wait for something to return or someone coming with an answer. The agent asks what they're waiting for, to which the remote viewer replies, there evidently was a group or a party of them that went to find a new place to live. It's like I'm getting all kinds of overwhelming input of corruption of their environment, failing very rapidly, and this group went somewhere, like a long way to find another place to live. That's what caused this atmospheric disturbance and environmental disturbance. The remote viewer replies, I get a globe that goes through a comet's tail. It's through a river or something. Very, very cosmic. It's like space pictures. The agent asks, now before you leave this individual, ask him if he knows who you are and is there any way you can help him in this present predicament. To which the remote viewer says, all I get is that they must wait. He doesn't know who I am. I think he perceives I'm an hallucination or something. The agent goes on to ask the remote viewer, when the others left, how did they go? The remote viewer responds, I get an impression, I don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a large boat, very round walls and very shiny metal. The agent asks the remote viewer to go on that journey and find out where they go. And he says the impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets and strange planet, a very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan to the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where this place didn't have it. A different kind of storm. The session ends at this point. The agent instructs the remote viewer to come back. The session is pretty mind blowing for a number of reasons. The remote viewer didn't have any knowledge of these coordinates before he entered the room. He didn't know what was inside the envelope. He didn't know the agent was looking for information related to Mars. Yet, when asked about certain places, he described them in great detail. He described the pyramids in the Cydonia region in so much detail. Many structures are viewable today on Google Earth. Many people believe we may have originally come from Mars, that Mars was once home to mankind, and something drastic happened on the planet, forcing people to find a new home. Was the remote viewer describing this cataclysmic event on Mars and speaking to our ancient ancestors before they set out on their voyage to planet Earth? I truly believe that Mars holds many of the secrets we seek. However, I don't believe robots will ever find anything. I believe it's destiny for people to go back and find out what happened, and with it the truth that life does exist on other planets around our universe. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one.